Chapter 11. When I opened my eyes, my throbbing skull was bandaged, and my body was aching. Looking out the window and seeing the sunrise and Hirith Temple standing atop the mountain across the gorge, I realized that I was at the mansion. I had slept with my clothes on and didn't know how I had come to this room. After I had woken up, Nishan came to my suite. I left with him. Walking for about 100 feet, passing paintings on the left, we arrived under several TV screens. There I could see the stairs cordoned off by police tape. Looking down, I saw chaos at the entrance, broken glasses everywhere, walls smashed with wine bottles. Trees and plants were leveled. A lot of officials in black suits and fedora hats were talking to state security guys. Several people in hazmat suits were collecting blood samples, and 4 KGB officers, in aquamarine outfits, were walking toward the ballroom. A man in a white suit was photographing the scene. There I noticed something unusual. I had seen birds and butterflies at this entrance when I had arrived on Friday evening. Thinking for a moment, I realized that those must have been part of the parallel universe. Now they weren't visible to me because 12 hours had passed, therefore, the effect of the blue drink had worn off. 40 people hospitalized, Nishan said. The rebellious guests killed 8 people and 2 officers. What happened to the red-haired woman? I had seen him dragging her. She died from spinal injury before the bottle hit your head. Killings were intentional and pre-planned. So, the KGB is investigating to find the perpetrators. Do they know I took part in it? I asked. I have no idea. If they need to question you, they'll find you. There are plenty of surveillance videos. I'm sure they have enough incriminating evidence against you. He paused. Besides anything else, you must leave. I brought you here to show you what happened. You can't stay any longer. Upon hearing Nishan's request, I almost fainted. Why? I'm authorized to be here until tomorrow to do my doctoral work. You seem to be an activist carrying out propaganda, not a researcher. You're retaliating because I expressed my personal opinions against you last night. My heart palpitated, and I clutched my aching head. If they threw me out of here, it would be the end of me. I would go to jail and never finish my dissertation. A decision to expel you was made by General Grozny. Instead of expressing your objections, you need to be heading toward the exit. Guards will drop you off wherever you want to go. I won't, I said. They cannot carry me out of here alive. I'm doing an official university-assigned research, and this is not your house. Security guards will drag you out. I suggest you don't humiliate yourself. Preserve your dignity. Obey the order and leave, Nishan said, sharply turning back and walking toward the stairs. Chapter 12. I wanted to talk with Nishan. So, I followed him, climbing a flight of spiraling stairs carved into the rock, and entering a spacious glass dome. There, besides giant TV screens, I could see a peculiar granite model of a city, which was on a tower and surrounded by 5 colored mountains. As he stopped in the middle of the dome, I paused and stood there looking at him, hoping he would say something, but he remained silent. Although he didn't glance back, I'm sure he knew I was behind him. Finally, after a moment, breaking the silence, he asked, "Where are you from?" "I grew up in an orphanage in Samarkand," I replied. "Orphan?" He paused for a brief moment and turned back. "Elders used to say, it's a great sin to treat stray children unjustly. Don't rob them of their property. So, to be fair to you, I'll take you to dine. Then, I'll give you enough time to take all your belongings. I have nothing at all other than what I have on me. I don't need any time to pack." Scanning me head to toe, he said, "All right, come with me." He strode toward the dome's exit door, and I went after him. Walking on the rooftop, we headed toward the cliff, climbing stone stairs, passing between walls of evergreen trees and shrubs. Going further up on a snaking trail, we reached the windy cliff top. There, inhaling the fresh mountain air and seeing cascading crags all around, I asked, should we go back? I had no idea why he had come up here. "Not yet," he said, pointing to a door, through which inside of a helicopter was visible. I had looked there earlier and had seen nothing. So, my heart racing, I asked, "Can people see another dimension without drinking that?" He grinned. "It isn't the other world. It's an invisibility cloak chopper. They're good for security. Are we going anywhere?" Nishan first looked at the pilot. Then, facing me, he said, "I think you need new outfits." I was hoping to go back to the mansion. Although I had no extra clothing, I became suspicious of his intentions. Was he joking? It didn't look like there would be shops in these mountains. Is there any place to buy anything around here? He pointed toward a distant mountain peak. You see that? There is a secret city. It has everything from apparel stores to restaurants. Well, I don't have any money. You can get anything you want for free. I didn't like the idea of taking goods without paying for them. It looked like government officials enjoyed many privileges. Yet, ordinary people didn't have the basic necessities of life. The Soviet leadership had promised to make all products and food free for every citizen, but so far, it had not happened. Saying nothing, I followed him into the helicopter. He seemed a bit relaxed, and I didn't want to lose the opportunity to talk with him. About 10 minutes later, crossing a green valley, the chopper approached a village surrounded by castle walls. Chapter 13. With its ancient domes made of colorful mosaic tiles, the secret city was amazingly beautiful. And stores and restaurants there were indeed free. About 2 hours later, Nishan and I had come back. I had brought dresses, shoes, lingeries, a bracelet, a gold necklace, and a notebook to write my dissertation. Among other things, Nishan had promised to speak with General Grozny so I wouldn't be deported from the compound until tomorrow when my stay would expire. In my room, I took a bath, put on a new red dress and the jewelry, and left to have an early dinner with Nishan at the rooftop. Despite my anxiety about the sacred drinks and visiting the secret lab, I tried to smile and walked upright. Approaching the stone bench decorated with food and wine, I sat opposite to him. On my left was a stunning view of gorges and valleys. And a towering mountain peak, as if eavesdropping on us, stood to my right. Sipping a cup of green tea, I said, I would like to visit your workplace, the secret lab, to see how it looks. I was withholding my knowledge that I'd be searching for murder clues in the recipe. There was no way for me to be honest about my true intentions. Nothing exciting there. I'm sure you'd be wasting your time. Please, I'd be the most grateful if you took me there, I said, trying to speak in a pleasant voice despite being nervous. If you come here again, next time, I could take you there. Next time? My heart palpitated by his unexpected answer. I couldn't leave the mansion without finding the murder clues in the recipe. I may not be alive by the next 2 days, never mind the next visit. The goal of visiting the secret lab in the back of my mind, I engaged him in a humorous chat and made him laugh, talking about things just for fun without any purpose. For a moment, I paused, looking at him, and felt that I had chemistry to get along with him. And I could see that, from the way he looked at me, he liked me. Why not today? I think it's easy because you go there every day, I said when he stopped smiling. Does it make any difference when? It's stuck in my head. Before I see that place, I can't focus on anything else. Agreed, I'll take you there right now. He looked ready to stand up. I admire people who get things done right away. It's much easier to do tasks on the spot than to keep them in mind. Hoping not to lose the opportunity, I sprang to my feet. We walked side by side toward the dome. On the second floor, near my suite, we went toward a rock wall, which opened, and we entered it. Then we stood inside a cylinder-shaped container that seemed as if it could hold 4 people. Its door closing, it spun, went a certain distance, stopped, gyrated, and continued to move. Finally, we came to a bright and spacious chamber, resembling alien structures. It felt like it was outdoors, but I knew we were underground. There was a pristine blue pond, and a variety of flowers and plants growing around it, and in the middle of it was an island with a square-shaped stone desk. Going through an underground tunnel, we popped up on the island next to the stone table, with a chair carved out of a rock, a computer screen, and a keyboard. And thin gold wires and silver plates were throughout the room, but more of them were concentrated around the place where his head would be if he sat. This is it. Nothing special, he said, looking at me. Do you sit in a stone chair all day with no drinks and no food? I go for lunch and come back. While I work, I get thirsty, so I drink the same water as the plants here use. I don't come here unless I need to access or process top-secret information. He looked up. Optical pipes deliver natural sunlight. Those sensors catch electric signals traveling from one plant to another. At 500 feet beneath bedrock, this location is free from dust, noise, and radio pollution. Elsewhere we study insects sending brain-to-brain signals. Thinking of what Hummingbird had told me, I asked, how do you get your usual work started? Could you show me? These things you see capture my thoughts. He pointed at golden wires overhead and on the stone desk. As I imagine each letter and character of my passcode, senses read electric signals from my brain. Watch me, he said, sitting down and looking straight as if meditating. I stood behind him, my hands wrapping his neck, my breasts resting on his shoulders, my chin brushing his head. The screen beeped and said, "The first code accepted. Waiting for secondary and tertiary verifications. That is all. The rest wouldn't interest you," he said, standing up. "I bring nothing, and I take nothing from here. I come, work, and leave." I could see no sign of spiritual drinks, no reference to them, no formula anywhere, or no dead body. I didn't want to ask him about this place's connection to the recipe or the murder. If I posed a question, he would suspect me, and I would be in trouble with the KGB too. "Do you have anything else in the chamber? Any writings, drawings, or artifacts?" Nishan paused. "What kind of drawings?" He was busy thinking about her, not about artifacts. When he met her for the first time on Friday, he was attracted to her. But after the last night's incidents, he was left doubting his own first impression. General Grozny had ordered her expelled due to her participation in the last night's guest riot. But for such removal to be formal, the guards would require Nishan's signature. So, instead of signing the paper, Nishan had asked her to leave voluntarily, but she had refused. Subsequently, taking into account the fact that she was an orphan, he had spoken with Grozny to cancel the order. He still liked her. In his imagination, he was walking with her on a path above a sheer cliff, looking at distant mountains. At one point, they stopped and faced each other, and he was ready to kiss her. His fantasy dissolving, he looked into her eyes and said, "Nothing else. I don't keep any information here. Only sophisticated sensors and displays. If I left you alone, you would find nothing." Seeing no clues to anything I was after, my expectation vanished, and fear, worry, uncertainty gripped me. I was running out of choices to make any progress on the murder and the recipe. If I were alone, I would bang my head on the wall and cry. Coming to the secret lab was fruitless. Except for the exotic flowers, there was nothing extraordinary. Hummingbird must have uselessly fussed about it. When we took the tunnel back to where we came from, I couldn't see the exit anymore. So, groping the walls, and finding no door, I said, "Everything is the undisturbed bedrock. Let's get out of here." Ivan's words echoed in my mind, "If you find the dead body and accuse Nishan, he will kill you right there. Don't panic. Instead, pretend to believe that the priest died of a heart attack." With the fear of getting trapped in the underground stone lab forever and turning to a mummy, I was unable to roll my tongue to utter any word. Nishan stared at me for a moment, then holding my hand, he led me toward the wall. To my surprise, we crossed it without resistance and entered an enclosure like the one we had arrived with. To be sure we had passed through a door or something, I looked back but saw only a rock wall barrier. Touching my blue diamond earrings, I said, "Are you sure we aren't transported? If you were, you wouldn't have your red dress or necklace." In the same way as it had come, the container went back, spinning, stopping, and so on. We arrived at the same spot we had left from. As we stepped out, I said, "Was it magic?" "No. It's real science. I'm not supposed to discuss the details," he said, walking along with me. "I brought the knowledge of this technology from the Kingdom of Heart. With it, we built secret offices around the world. With the help of information received from the other dimension, we design and develop the most advanced machines that don't exist anywhere else." He stopped by the door of my suite. This was the first time I had heard of the kingdom called Heart. I was eager to ask him more questions about it, but seeing him prepared to leave, I said, "Can we meet again today? I love being with you." The entire day had gone, but I had found no sign of the formula nor any clues of the murder. "I could see you tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. for breakfast." It would be too late, and I was running out of time. So, I wanted to come up with a plan. "Is there anything else you have to do?" I asked. "Nothing, other than going to bed. I'll wake up at 6 in the morning, exercise, take a shower, get dressed, and go for breakfast." Not assured by what he said, I wanted to spy after him. I kissed him and entered my room. Chapter 14. I was in my suite, writing about the exciting things I had seen. Taking a break, I drank a cup of tea and began drawing the scenery visible through the large glass window. Someone knocked on the door. Pressing the green button, I said, "Come in." Escorted by 2 security guards, Ivan walked in and said, "I would like to have a private conversation with her. Will you please leave us alone? We'll wait for you outside. If you wish to stay more than 10 minutes, we will need Akayev's approval," said one of the guards. "I cannot carry a mobile phone and wallet. I cannot spend half an hour with my girlfriend. It's like visiting a maximum security prison. Isn't it? Yet, I'm Akayev's friend. We are following the security protocols, not arguing with you." "I got it. I'll be done in 9 minutes and 30 seconds. The guards stepped out and closed the door. "Helga, you have to come with me. I can't say certain things. We are being monitored," Ivan said, his voice sounding agitated, and his pale face turning red. "Nishan assured me that I have full privacy in my room. Do you think he lied to me? If he said so, then you have it. But you won't be safe here anymore. I haven't finished anything. I found nothing. I don't know who the killer is. It's over. If you don't leave, you will be dead. I'll take you to a place unreachable to the police." "No. Leave me alone." I clutched my head. I remembered about the danger that the woman in a pink dress from the parallel universe had warned me. If something happened to me, where would it be? At this mansion or elsewhere? My heart was telling me to stay with Nishan. And I wasn't going to give up without unfolding the murder and revealing the recipe. Anywhere outside of the secret compound wouldn't be safe for me. "I can't," I said. "I trust Nishan. He might do something to help me. Do you know how much I sacrificed for you? Do you think I care about the formula or lose sleep over the priest's death? I spend nights and days dreaming about you. Our souls belong together. You and I will be eternally one flesh and one body. I rescued you from the police. But that wasn't anything in comparison to the threat you are facing now. No, don't waste your words." Since he had met me, Ivan had been trying to convince me to marry him, but I had been rejecting his proposals. "By ignoring the spirited flames of my heart, you are crossing sacred boundaries," he shouted, taking my handwriting, rolling it and hitting my face with it, then tearing and showering my head with torn pieces of paper. "What are you doing? You just claimed you cared about me," I shouted with anger and cried. "You are proving to me we don't share any values. I'm sorry. The passion has driven me insane. It's draining my soul. I do love you," he said, pushing me flat on the bed, kissing me, pulling my shirts up, caressing my breast, and his other hand under my thighs. "Get off me, you bastard," I said, kicking him in the jaw. As he covered his face with his hands, I screamed and ran to the door. Then, at that moment, the 2 security guards entered and escorted Ivan out. As they led him away, he shouted, "You are failing to follow the steps to be saved. But I promised to fix the chaos you are creating. In the end, you'll understand your mistakes. I'll prove that I'm right and have a clean heart." Moments later, one of the guards came back and said, "Mr. Ivanov said you must give his diamond earrings and ring back." As if I didn't hear him, I removed them and went to the washroom. I was ready to drop them in the toilet bowl and flush them down, but remembered my promise to return them. So, I turned back. "Here, take them," I said, tears rolling from my eyes. If he were here, I would have thrown them in his face. The guard didn't touch them with his hand but opened a transparent plastic bag, where I dumped them. Zipping up the bag, he said, "Would you like to report the incident to General Grozny?" "No, I don't want anyone to know about it. It's a private matter between him and me." I was afraid if General Grozny were involved, he would dig deep. All my conversations with the KGB officers would spill out, jeopardizing my efforts to uncover the recipe. At this crucial moment, I didn't want to mess up everything. "It's your choice. If you change your mind, we'll bring it to his attention." The security staff left the room. Chapter 15. The confrontation with Ivan had made me anxious. My head was about to explode. Thursday morning, hours before the police captured me, I had not imagined that I'd be in this tense situation, with so many problems and unresolved questions. The deadline to find the killer, as well as the KGB restrictions and orders, had made the matter more complicated. If Ivan was telling the truth, I would face danger. What would occur, and when? Who would act? I had no clue and didn't know what to do next. Pondering for a while, I exclaimed, "How stupid!" The KGB meant that I had to visit the lab by ingesting the blue liquid. If I had drunk it, I might have seen what I was supposed to. They had assumed that I would consume it. I hate assume, which stands for ass out of you and me. Like a half-brained mare, Hummingbird wasn't explicitly clear by not saying consume or don't consume. I rose to my feet and left the room, wanting to drink the blue liquid first and then revisit the secret lab. I had to find answers to the riddles bugging me. At the glass dome, I called the mansion staff and said, "Can I have a blue drink?" "Mum, are you sure? Here, nobody consumes it. But if guests order, we don't refuse. I'm sure I want it." A few minutes later, a male staffer brought the drink in a sealed bottle, opened it before my eyes, poured it into a glass, and gave it to me, saying, "Please." "Thank you," I said, sipping the fluid. 10 minutes later, I saw more stars, planets, great horizons, and towering peaks shrouded in fog. On the left, I could see a huge waterfall and hear it pounding the rocks. Straight ahead, I spotted shining trees and horse-like creatures spitting fire and galloping across the hill. Then, I noticed a flock of jets cutting through the night sky toward the volcanic mountain. On the lake at a distance, a fleet of warships was sailing, going in the same direction as the fighter planes. From what I was observing, I guessed that trouble was brewing in the parallel world. Some kind of war might have started. I asked myself, does it have any relation to the dangers I've heard? After that, I saw a green-uniformed officer near me and was terrified by the encounter. He had 3-starred red shoulder and collar patches and his written on his upper arm. He was a long-nosed, Caucasian male. With a quick look at me, he bolted downstairs. Without losing a moment, I sprinted after him. "Stop!" I shouted, chasing him in the second-floor corridor. 2 others, a male and female pair, wearing green uniforms like the one I was after, came out of my room and joined the one on the run. All 3 of them trotted toward the west side stairs, passing a robot and a guard. From the fact that the guard didn't notice them, I knew that all 3 intruders were from the parallel universe. The female one had a petite figure that I might have seen somewhere. Losing their track, I ran in the hallway downstairs but didn't see any sign of them. Then, breathless and sweltering, I came back to the glass dome, where my eyes caught a drone taking off and flying over the mansion, going northeast. Wanting to inform Nishan about the encounter, I came to the second floor and said to a security officer, "Where is Nishan's room?" "Why? You can't bother him unless there is a serious emergency. Just answer my question. Which door is it?" I chased 3 spies out of the mansion. "It's very urgent. I must see him right now." "The third door from the left." "But there have been no intrusions. We have hundreds of cameras checking the entire building. If anything, we would have seen. They are invisible to you and your cameras. And precisely, that is why it's urgent." I hurried toward Nishan's room. "No, Mum." The security staff ran after me. Then, passing me and turning back, he blocked my way. "You'll talk to him in the morning at 8 a.m., during breakfast." Looking back, I saw another guard running toward me. Realizing that there was no way to convince them, I shoved the one in front of me and ran to Nishan's suite. I was banging and kicking the door. "Nishan, it's Helga, open it. I have an urgent matter to discuss." While no response came from there, 2 security guys caught and dragged me toward my suite. "Let go of me. I have to see him." "It's a serious matter," I shouted, kicking the walls, trying to break free. When they had carried me for about 20 feet, I heard Nishan say, "Let go of her. She can come in." Looking back, I saw him in the corridor. And the guards released my arms right away. "Come in," he said, keeping the door open. As soon as I entered, he asked, "What is the matter?" Taking a deep breath, I said, "Can I have a cup of water? I am out of breath. I've been running all over the mansion." He took a water bottle from a refrigerator on the wall. Next, he fetched a crystal glass from the shelf above the fridge, filled it, and gave it to me. "Please, sit down." He pointed to a sofa. As I sat on the love seat with the drink, he sat in an armchair across from me and was ready to listen. When I was at the glass dome, watching the parallel universe, I saw a lot of Navy warships and jets. Then, there was a man in a green uniform lurking behind me. "Can we go outside? Then, you'll describe him," he said, standing up and walking toward the door. He didn't look like that he was surprised or shocked. Catching up with him, I finished describing the intruder. "His stands for the Heart Intelligence Services," he said, as we walked along the corridor. "Its agents wear green uniforms with red shoulder patches. The 3 large stars indicate that he's a colonel general, which is a very high rank. A person of that level wouldn't be on a field unless something serious is going on. He stopped in the corridor and pointed to a portrait with 4 people, their dresses colored black, red, green, and blue. Does the intruder resemble any of them? His clothing was similar to that of the third guy, the green color. His facial appearance wouldn't match. Who are they? From left to right, dressed in black is King Gur, in red the chief of the Royal Police of Heart. In the green outfit is the Director of Intelligence, and in the blue is the Minister of Defense. Do you know how Heart agents operate? Yes, he said, walking along with me. I had the same rank as the intruder. What was your job? The same as the guy in green, the spy chief. Hearing what Nishan uttered, my hands trembled. I didn't know if I should trust him. After all, if he worked for them, he could still be one of them. Why didn't he hide? If he had known that you had consumed the blue drink, he would have been careful not to be seen. So, what happened next? As we reached the end of the corridor, where the intruders had gone down, I said, when I chased that officer through the hallway, 2 others came out of my room, a male and a female. I think the one at the glass dome was watching me while the other 2 had been collecting information in my suite. Then, I lost them as they descended the stairs. Later, I saw a drone taking off. If I guess correctly, you were anxious. So, you came to me, asking for help, he said as the security guard opened the door on the side of the mansion. Yes, I'm still nervous and agitated, I said, going along with him toward a sharp cliff. I worry about the consequences of their invasion, the dangers they pose. We can't do anything about it. The visible and invisible universes overlap. They always watch us and collect information anywhere, anytime. It makes no sense. You are warding off this world's people but allowing agents of the parallel dimension to eavesdrop on every secret. We don't see them. Our cameras don't record them. They are widespread. There is no defense. It doesn't matter what info they collect. The question is what they do with it. How could you be so indifferent knowing Heart agents are freely roaming around? I asked him as we sat side by side at the cliff top, our feet dangling. They will cause subversions, murders, and assassinations. They could kill you too. Since they are in a different dimension, they cannot bomb places on Earth and can't stab or shoot us. But they manipulate us to commit evil against one another. It'll be our hands and guns that will kill ourselves, not their weapons, which they use against their own. The only time they can speak to us, and we hear and see them, is when we drink the blue liquid, I said, trying to clarify the interaction between the 2 worlds. Correct. The sacred drinks serve as the link between the 2 dimensions. By halting the production of these liquids, we can cut off the interaction of our people with theirs. The actual harm comes from them manipulating us with toxic information, but not from what they take from us. Instead of shutting the door to the other world, I said, we should go through it and destroy them. I've gone down that path already. Fought battles against their king. And faced too many dilemmas. The parallel world has many good and nice people too. And they have a lot in common with us, including shared religions, languages, and culture. What do you think can't be easily accomplished? How about giving the guards at secret facilities the blue drink? They would see intruders of the parallel world. The mansion staff would need to consume the magic liquid too. I had thought about those ideas as well. I found several problems with them. First, doing so will open more security holes, such as guards turning to 00 agents. Second, they would only see the spies but wouldn't be able to stop them. He stood up and gave a hand to me. You can't solve these issues tonight. We'll talk later. Now, I'll walk you back to your room. Hold me tight. I might fall, I said, grabbing his hand, getting up on my feet, hugging him, and looking down. It was a sharp cliff. I wouldn't have dangled my feet if I hadn't drunk the blue liquid. We walked back to the mansion. Chapter 16. Nishan and I stopped by the door of my suite. As he prepared to leave, I said, I went through so much. Please, come in and sit with me for a while. I'm afraid to enter the room alone. I don't know what I might encounter next. Saying nothing, he turned back and followed me inside. I had many questions to ask. First, I looked at Hirith Temple, which was superimposed by giant trees with glowing lights moving through their branches. Then, I glanced at him. Are you hiding the formula at the lab? I had blurted the KGB secret. I regretted saying it, but it was too late. Who said so? He began pacing. It's a false rumor. Where did you hear it? Fearing treason charges for any disclosure, I said nothing. And without telling him anything about Hummingbird, I thought that either the KGB misled me or itself was duped by someone else. Would Nishan be a killer or his workplace have clues to the murder? I was back to square one. My mind shattered. Dark mysteries and conspiracies swirled in my head. My body trembling with fear, I didn't know whom to trust anymore and what to do next. Nishan paced. General Grozny had told me that you would be researching Hirith Temple and writing your dissertation, he said. Until now, you didn't ask me a single question about it. Why are you here? You were forcing me to ask you directly, I said, implying that I was investigating the murder. How did you get the formula from the priest? Why no one else but you? He was a lonely man living in the Hisar Mountains and the only survivor of his diaspora with its own religion and language. To preserve his faith and tongue, we brought to him here. I knew the local geography. The Hisar Mountains weren't too far, and the glacier-covered borders between Tajikistan and Uzbekistan crossed through those mountains. But I didn't believe that the USSR had built the secret compound and the research lab because its high-ranking officials loved the priest, his language, and his faith. They must have been taking advantage of the holy man's knowledge, spiritual power, and the formula to rule the world. So, I said, I heard that story before. Are you telling me that General Grozny, Ivan's father, and you cared about saving the lonely old priest's dead language and religion? Yes, we did. We convinced General Secretary to build a dazzling temple. No, that's wrong. The holy place is constructed to show the foreign dignitaries that religion is free in the glorious USSR. What about a linguistics center connected to several universities to teach and research the priest's language? Is that a show too? I knew that Tashkent State University was one of the schools that taught the dead language. But I was sure that, in doing so, the Soviet government had hidden goals, not a charitable purpose. The priest's tongue could be crucial to something, perhaps for reading scriptures or communicating with the invisible dimension. The holy man himself was needed because of the formula, which was a door to the unseen world. No, I think everyone was motivated by the magic drinks. You don't know how everything happened. I had been friends with Ivan since university. Also, his father and General Grozny were longtime buddies. When the priest came to the public attention, I feared the magical drinks and their formula would end up serving malicious goals of terrorists or hostile countries. So, I asked Grozny, who had worked as the head of the main intelligence directorate, to help us bring the priest here. I nodded. I could see that Nishan was trying to explain that everything was done out of generosity, love, and kindness to the holy man. Okay, you still didn't answer my question. How and why you got the recipe? I taught him Uzbek and learned his language. So, he trusted me, Nishan said. As he got too old, the formula became a burden for him. First, he asked me to take it. When I didn't want, he tried to give it to Grozny, who also refused. In the end, I had no choice but to accept the responsibility. It's such a big secret that only one person has to know. Doubtful of his claim, I said, no, you are keeping the red liquid for General Secretary. He'll use it to go to another universe and continue a new life. And you're his puppet. That's a baseless rumor. The truth is that, when he dies from aging, he'll be buried at the Kremlin necropolis. So, you don't know what to do with the recipe. If he gave it to me, I could take it without question. He was explaining the situation in such a way that as if nobody would need it. If I eradicate it, I'd be in big trouble. If I release it, the world will be in danger. It became a burden for me too. I didn't believe half of what Nishan was saying. But I didn't think he was the priest's killer. We talked for several hours. And I was sitting so close to him as if our elbows were glued together. Then, he threw his right arm over my shoulder. Among many things, we talked about the Kingdom of Heart, which was located on the parallel planet coexisting side by side with Earth but in a different dimension. He told me about its people and geography. Then, snuggled next to him, I closed my eyes. Before dawn, I woke up. First, my hand touched his bare skin, then his arm slipped around my back and pulled me into him so that my breasts pressed against his chest. Our lips got locked in, and our tongues played together. We lay on the bed, passionately kissing, caressing each other's body, and rolling together. We had taken off all our clothing. My bosom was trembling, feeling the heat between my legs. First, he was on me, sweating. Then, I straddled him. Does sex feel better in this or the other world? I asked, lying flat on the top of him and kissing him. Gliding his hands down on my wet spine, he said nothing. We reclined side by side on a bed in the morning, sipping tea, facing the bay window, and looking outside. And I was still under the effects of the blue drink, which was supposed to last until noon. On a hill straight ahead, I could see goat-sized dainty horses galloping down the slope toward the pristine lake. Two suns, an orange and a bluish one, were emerging from the east. Although he gazed in the same direction as I was looking, only I was watching fantastic creatures, two suns rising, and a marvelous world belonging to the parallel dimension, because only I had consumed the magical blue drink. On the one hand, I was enjoying what I was seeing, but on the other hand, I was terrified of the time passing. Less than 12 hours were left before my 48-hour stay would expire, and I'd be prosecuted by the police as I had not found the killer. I was thinking, should I ask Nishan about extending my stay for another day? Would I ever be free? I heard a sound coming through the intercom, General Grozny speaking. Attention, Nishan. We have an urgent situation and need you immediately on the glass dome. He stood up and darted out. Realizing something serious had happened, I too ran after him. We both trotted barefoot down the hall. Chapter 17. We strode into the glass dome. There, on one of the two TV monitors attached to the wall, I could see a globe-shaped device with a digital map scrolling on it. The second screen was showing an officer with an aquamarine uniform. His golden shoulder pads had 3 giant stars. Armed soldiers stood behind him, forming a semicircle. He looked to be around Nishan's age and about the same height, but with a long chin and a sharp nose. Staring at us, he said, "The hydrogen bomb you see will explode in 24 hours. Raising his eyebrows, Nishan said, "What else can you tell us about it?" Before I can say anything more, Helga must leave. What I'm about to share is a secret communication. It can't be leaked to anyone except you and General Grozny. I was shocked. How did he know me? I was an ordinary PhD student, not a famous person. I had never seen him in my life. He was not a man I would quickly forget. So, I asked, did anyone introduce us? Who the hell are you to pose a question to me? Bors shouted. Earth is about to be wiped out. Do you expect me to have no clues? Embarrassed, I left the room. Chapter 18. Nishan didn't like Bors's rude attitude. But there were enough problems piled up and wasn't a good time to escalate personal conflicts. He asked, is it the only nuclear device? Bors shook his head. If it were the only one and movable, I wouldn't be calling you. There are 22 of them around the world. Look at their locations on the screen. Nishan could see the list of cities scrolling up on the digital map, showing Sao Paulo, Mexico City, Washington, New York, Toronto, London, Paris, Berlin, Rome, Moscow, Istanbul, Jerusalem, Mecca, Tashkent, New Delhi, Lhasa, Varanasi, Beijing, Seoul, Tokyo, Sydney, any town. Too many places, Nishan said, his head dizzying, his vision blurring, and adrenaline scorching his intestines. Where is any town? The trouble is bigger than you can imagine, Bors said. But we don't know where in the world is any town. Unknown things are more perilous. To Nishan, Bors's last sentence sounded cryptic. What was he trying to say? How and why would any town be more dangerous than the others? Can we disable them? No. If one of them is tampered with, all of them will go off. They are untouchable, and the time is too short. That's why General Secretary appointed me to handle this deadly crisis menacing the world. Grozny spoke up. Nishan could help you to hijack the system controlling those nuclear devices. Bors lifted his chin up. I don't think he can do anything. The bombs were activated using his account. That is impossible, Nishan said, raising his voice. Whoever it is, to use my credentials, that person must have my password, which can't be stolen. I never type it and never write it down. Bors lifted an eyebrow. I'm merely relaying the facts. The system logs show that you changed it 8 hours ago. Later you logged in with it and activated nuclear weapons. Nishan exhaled. First, he had heard bad news about the world being in trouble. Now, terrible, perhaps erroneous news about his passcode being stolen and used in carrying out this calamity. Your facts are wrong. The last time I accessed the system was precisely at 4 p.m. yesterday. For the past 15 hours, I haven't gone anywhere near a computer. He was telling the truth. He had had nothing to do with these things. How could someone have taken his password? Then somebody is working behind your back, Bors said, his tone direct. Unless we find that person, you can't do anything. The world is in dire condition, and the clock is ticking. Do you have any idea who might be doing it? General Grozny asked. Is it possible to crack the encryption if we can't find the mastermind? Technical experts told us that it would take 1 billion years for supercomputers to break it, Bors said. Our best hope is to catch the people orchestrating the mayhem. Based on the intel gathered so far, we know that Helga Erman is connected to the perpetrators. I'm confident that she has stolen your password and given it to them. Adrenaline rushed in Nishan's blood. She wouldn't betray his trust that way. I don't think so. You are chasing the wrong person. Bors directed his gaze at Nishan. Helga is a student of Eastern philosophy and has obsessively studied God. And she is seeking the formula for magic drinks. She might have also played a role in killing the priest. Look at the map. 5 out of the 22 targets are amongst the holiest sites of the world's major religions. All the pieces fit together seamlessly. Also, when your passcode was stolen, she was at the mansion. Nishan knew that the 5 sacred places Bors was talking about were Rome, Mecca, Jerusalem, Varanasi, and Lhasa. The hydrogen bomb explosions at these locations would be like poking spears in the hearts of billions of believers. And he imagined that every targeted city would be in an awful situation, people unable to evacuate on time. Shortages of food and fuel. Miles-long traffic jams. The power downs. Stores looted. Hospitals shut down. If the disaster not halted, the scale of death and destruction would be incalculable. Bors's claim that Helga was involved in the nuclear plot because she had zealously studied God made no sense. If she were fixated with the Almighty, wouldn't she care more about sacred sites than anyone else? Rubbing his temple where a headache was materializing, Nishan said, I know her. She is neither capable of nor willing to commit such crimes. Bors wrinkled his forehead. I'm not saying Helga is a lone wolf. She's a snake curled up in a bag, brought to the mansion by a monster to eavesdrop and later to bite someone with her venomous teeth. The work on this nuclear plot was going on for years. Big powers are behind it. Nobody can set up so many hydrogen bombs without spending a huge amount of money and several years of effort. She's serving them. Besides abhorring Bors's tone, Nishan's heart roiled against the idea of Helga being involved in this crisis. Yet, at the same time, the world was facing a calamity on a scale never seen before. Could he afford to be wrong? So, what do you expect from me? Nishan asked. You must detain her until we arrive. Otherwise, she might escape or commit suicide, or she could be killed. We will find out where she got her instructions. Losing Helga means the world's nuclear tragedy can't be stopped. I have no right to restrict her freedom. I believe her presence here is coincidental. You are defending her because you are infatuated with her. The mastermind could have known your weakness and taken advantage of it. I compare your situation to the human attraction to a flower called naked lady. It looks beautiful and smells great, but when you touch it, it causes cardiovascular collapse. Your comparison of Helga to the deadly and toxic flower is outrageous. Your accusations of her are absurd. Biting his lip, Bors said, as dumb as a rock, you don't even realize that you were manipulated. Next, the perpetrators will assassinate you. They may think you might somehow be able to disarm the nuclear bombs. You bear responsibility for the tragedy. I urge you to take immediate action before it's too late. Chapter 19. While Nishan and General Grozny were talking to Bors, I was in a corridor. As I stood there, horrified from what was happening, I heard Nishan say via the intercom, Helga, please come into the glass dome. I entered. Looking at the guard, who had come with me, Nishan said, we lost it in the middle of the conversation. Is there any form of communication alive? No. Total blackout, the security guard replied. Everything is down, including satellite phones, the internet, and TVs. After Nishan nodded, the guard left. Facing me, General Grozny said, the government is coming to get you and Nishan. I had authorized you to stay at the mansion because you'd be doing your research. He paced, his hands crossed behind his back. Now, in contrast, Bors claims you were after the recipe. You may be somehow connected with these troubles. Although I have been interested in the formula, I'm not involved in this disaster. I knew that I had done nothing wrong. Don't you think not stating your true purpose was a misleading act? General Grozny glanced at me. I paused. He still didn't know my true purpose, which was to find the killer and escape the jail. Neither Grozny nor Nishan would be aware of the fact that I had been charged with murder. I was afraid of telling them about it. Nishan said I had asked her the same question. There was a failure to communicate. By now, she has explained it to me, and I fully trust her. Looking at Nishan, he nodded. I think it's a setup. They are coming after you, not Helga. She has nothing, but you have many things they are craving. She's a game they are playing to apprehend you. Nobody needs the military to arrest a woman who has nothing to fight with. The entire purpose of Bors's call was to trick you that you weren't the real target. If they want me, I'm here. I don't run. Nishan looked north at the sprawling mountains. But if they need anything else, I'll have to think about it. Would Bors lie to you? I hope he was honest. A mentor doesn't matter to him, General Grozny said. He is loyal to his duty, not to me. Besides my pursuit of the killer and the recipe, I had interacted with the KGB officers at the mansion. Wouldn't that info help Nishan or Grozny? Should I tell them about it, or would I be committing treason? You are wrong to think I have told you everything, I said, looking at Nishan. There are things I know that you don't. I feel guilty because I can't spill the entire truth. I met a couple of important people and discussed critical issues. General Grozny stared at me. Army columns are heading to us. It isn't the right time to withhold any secret. Then, he sharply turned around and strode out to the rooftop. Facing me, Nishan said, I'm sure you can help us in solving this riddle. Try recalling recent events and people you met. I'll check how Grozny is feeling. He has high blood pressure, and this crisis is rocking his emotions. Once you gather your thoughts, we'll talk. Tell us the truth. Don't be afraid of anything. I'll be back in a moment. He went out after the general. I was alone in the glass dome. In the moment of quietude, I rewound my memory to Friday evening, when I had arrived with Ivan at the mansion. In these 2 days, I had experienced a lot and knew that something terrible was going to happen. My fear had come true. Chapter 20. GRU Colonel Anna Ostinova was on board of the command chopper, heading toward Boyson and led by Army Major General Morozov. This so-called special-purpose command helicopter was 40 feet wide and 300 feet long. It had 6 wings, 6 engines, and 6 rotor blades. Hundreds of monitors, showing live images of military activities, hung on its interior walls. It was so large that escorting gunships appeared like bees following a bird. In addition to soldiers, it was transporting 5 armored carriers, 4 tanks, and 4 self-driving all-terrain vehicles with machine guns mounted on them. Besides KGB officers, Colonel Vladimir Voloshin and Colonel General Bors Sokolov, Special Purpose GRU and KGB Alpha Group fighters were on board. The GRU was the main intelligence directorate of the Soviet Union. It ran entirely independent from the KGB, but occasionally the two participated in joint operations. For instance, to invade Afghanistan, the KGB Alpha and its affiliated groups supported by the GRU Muslim Battalion had attacked the presidential palace in Kabul. During that operation, they had killed the Afghan president, his 11-year-old son, and his guests, most of whom were unarmed women and children. The Alpha Group was ruthless. If force didn't work, it would rely on vicious tactics. In Lebanon, when militants had taken hostage 4 Soviet diplomats, the USSR had dispatched the Alpha troops. Then, these fighters, instead of negotiating, captured the relatives of hostage-takers and dismembered their bodies and sent these horrific parts to the militants. So, to make the Alpha fighters stop chopping their kins into pieces, the militants had released the Soviet diplomats. Unlike those who had committed unjustified atrocities, Anna abhorred the idea of killing innocent people just for the sake of success. Approaching Anna, Bors said, "We're in a terrible moment. You have to be very careful." Everyone called Bors by his first name instead of his last name, Sokolov. He was from the KGB's first directorate. For this operation, he and Morozov reported directly to General Secretary. "I'll try to," she replied. "You have to say, 'I'm ready,' not, 'I'll try.' If you aren't prepared, Akayev could get you. Then, you'll be in a grave, unable to utter any word." To make Bors stop annoying her, she said, "I'm careful." "That's a better answer. Have you ever participated in a special operation?" "No," Anna said, noticing a strange smell coming from his mouth. It wasn't alcohol but something exotic that she couldn't tolerate. She didn't know what it was and didn't want to offend him by asking. and she wasn't enjoying the conversation. Pushing his hand aside from her shoulder, she walked away. Stopping in the midsection of the chopper, Anna looked below from the window. A military convoy, stretching for miles on the steep highway, consisting of armored vehicles, tanks on flatbed trucks and artillery transports, was crawling on the treacherous and steep eastern slope. "The GRU director wants to speak with you," Major General Morozov said, handing Anna the phone. She pressed it to her right ear. "Colonel Ostinova," the director said, "I would like to stress the importance of the operation, not only for us but for the entire world." He went silent for a moment. "Without our success, life on the planet will end. We'll make every effort to deactivate the hydrogen bombs. Weapons can't be disarmed without detaining Nishinakiyev and forcing him to give us the code. He is the mastermind. Helga Erman is the thief. Your mission is to capture him and her alive. Don't allow them to escape." Expecting a great conflict, General Secretary ordered the military to blockade the entire Balston Mountains. "You and everyone else report to GRU Lieutenant General Alisher Osmanov, who will join you shortly." "Yes," she said. "Be extremely careful with the operation. The stakes are very high. Either the world will continue to exist or will end. Everything could escalate beyond any control. If Akayev escaped, he could wipe out the entire Soviet military in Central Asia in a few hours. He might cripple the world's electronic systems. With his thoughts alone, he may control and instruct computers. To safeguard human civilization, the detention room where he will be kept in shall be clear of any device." "Yes, I got it," she said, her body shivering with anger mixed with fear. "No matter what the situation is or what the costs are, the goal is to capture Nishinakiyev first, then Helga Erman. Nothing else is more vital."